is an author. She's a blogger. She's an HLAA activist, and she wears cochlear implants. I guess you've had a hearing loss for some time. You can tell us about that if you would, Pat. She's passionate about educating people regarding hearing loss. She is a life coach for people with hearing loss. She launched the New Jersey chapter, which is Morris County, in 2011 and is its current president. And she's also a trustee of the HLAA New Jersey and a member of the HLAA New Jersey Hearing Loop Committee. That is a lot of involvement with hearing loss. Thank you for your commitment to us and our community, Pat. So Pat is going to talk today about hearing loss affecting us and those we communicate with as well. And we're going to look at the challenges and some solutions to helping us communicate better. So you're on, Pat.
I'm on. Thanks, Sally. So I just want to tell you something. All those things about New Jersey, I don't live there anymore. I live in Maine. I started a chapter in Maine called the Downies chapter. And the Downies chapter is as different from your chapter as day and night because we cover the whole state because Maine is very sparsely populated. So it's different. So thank you. I love being here. So I'm so glad that you invited me back. Last time I talked about my company, which is being heard, where I go into the workplace to talk about hearing loss because the workplace doesn't acknowledge hearing loss, right? And for all of you who are in the workforce, did they ever acknowledge your hearing loss? Did they ever come up to you and say, oh, I see those hearing aids. I bet you need some accommodations. Did anybody ever do that to you? I know the answer is no, but I'm curious. Did anybody ever say to you, oh, we'll get you a caption phone. Oh, we'll get a hearing loop. Oh, we'll caption the meeting. Anyway, but today I'm here to talk about how our hearing loss affects our communication partners. So my question to you guys, is there anybody here that does not have a hearing loss? No. Okay. Okay, good. So my story is I started to lose my hearing when I was about 19. It went down through the years. And when I was 60, I got the first of my bilateral cochlear implants, of which I am grateful for every day, every second. And today I really am active. I really want to help educate people with hearing loss. But let me explain something. That was not always the case. For most of my life, I bluffed. So if I didn't hear what somebody was saying, I wouldn't say, oh, I have a hearing loss. Would you mind talking to me a little louder or look at me in the eye? No, I just bluffed. I actually considered myself a professional bluffer. And I guess I'm not even going to ask you guys if you bluff because I know the answer. That's something we are very good at. And I hate that I did it because there's a lot of negative repercussions when you fake it, when you bluff. Oh, I have a good one. This is really a good one. So my friend said, oh, he came over for dinner last night and he was farting. And I wasn't quite sure if that's what she said, but I figured I better laugh. And she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, is that what you said? Did you say that? She said, no, he was fainting. That's what happens when you bluff. So my dog is being very nosy. He wants to meet you all. But we'll We'll save that for later. So does anybody here recognize the name Sam Trigan? Sam Trigan. Does that ring a bell to anybody? I can't see everybody's face. Let's see. Help me. Does anybody know Sam Trigan? He spoke at millions and millions of HLAA conferences. He's about 95 at this point. But what he did, he and his wife, Janet Trigan, is they went literally around the world giving workshops to people with hearing loss and the people they can communicate with. And what I learned from him is not only do we have a role to play in our hearing loss, which is difficult, right? It's not easy, but so do our communication partners. So this really will go over our challenges. And I'll go through that quickly because you already know what our challenges are. And then I'll go over the challenges of the people we talk to. So Larry, can you bring up my presentation, please? So, and while Larry is bringing it up, I do not mind if you ask questions during my presentation. The only problem is I may not see it. So if I don't see it, can somebody, because let's see if I can get a better view. Yeah, it's hard for me to see everybody. So if anybody has a question or needs to say something, just yell. Okie dokie, Larry. Let's go to the next slide and the next slide. Okay, so just about me, you know, I've got a hearing loss. This is my dog. He's a little mischief maker. If you remember last time I had a dog and a cat, well, now I have a new dog and I'll probably get a cat at one point. I live in an island in Maine. I live in Deer Isle, Maine. I told you my company is being heard. We're an inclusion advocate specializing in hearing loss. But the bottom line is I cannot stop advocating for people with hearing loss. I give presentations, I give workshops, and I do coaching for people with hearing loss. Let's go, but this is what I do, but I just said it. So let's go to the next slide, please. And go ahead to the next one. And the next one. Okay, so here are the challenges, some of the challenges for people with hearing loss. Now, when I go through a mixed group, I go through it one by one, but I'm going to ask you guys to tell me which of these challenges are the hardest. And since I can't see you, so I can't ask you to speak, can you just shout it out? Which are the biggest challenges for you?
Mishearing.
Mishearing, yeah.
Left out of
Yeah.
the conversations.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
For me,
Left
too.
out of conversations. Yep.
Left out conversations, yes.
What about the fatigue? So you know, I think somebody said something, but I didn't catch it.
Bluff is another one.
Oh God, it sure is. Let me just talk about fatigue for a second. One thing that I didn't realize is that hearing for us is much more tiring than it is for somebody who can hear, because we're constantly looking at the face, the lips, filling in the words that we can't hear. It can be exhausting.
Agreed.
Bluffing, well, I used to ask who bluffs, but now I don't even ask that anymore. I say, is there anybody who doesn't bluff? And I can't see all your hands, but I know there are no hands going up. What about courage to advocate? When you go to a play or a movie, do you ask for accommodations? Do you ask what they have? Do you ask if they have a hearing loop or an FM system or captions? Do you ask for that ahead of time? It's not easy. It's a pain. And often they don't get back to you right away. Larry, I have a question. Can you make the PowerPoint smaller for me? Oh, look, I just did it. I just did it. I can see you all now. Okay, much better. Yeah, you can't hide from me, you guys. Do you get, what about the stigma? Are you uncomfortable telling people that you have a hearing loss? It looks like you're a group of people that are ahead of most people, because at least for myself, the majority of my life, I was too overwhelmed with the stigma of hearing loss to let people know. In fact, after I had a hearing loss for about 20 years, somebody told me, a friend of mine told me about HLAA and how I might like to do it since I'm having trouble hearing and all that. And you know what I thought? I don't want to be with a bunch of people with hearing loss. They're weird. They're old. I don't want to be associated with them. I really didn't. It was only when I was about 60 that somebody told me about Hearing Loss Association of America, but then I was ready to hear about it. I guess you have to be ready. Okay, anybody want to pick anything else out? What's anybody? No. Nobody's going to pick the 5 stages of grief.
Maybe I could just share quickly a really, really hard experience I had not too long ago. I was at the beach. There was a wagon there for food, and there were 2 lines. And instead of asking somebody, which line should I be in, I thought I would just go up and ask the person who was serving food about the lines. And this gentleman behind me started yelling at me, really angry that I was jumping the line. And I tried to explain what I was doing, and he was so mad that it just closed me down. And that was first time I'd ever had anything like that happen, and it was really uncomfortable. And I finally just turned to the people and said, I don't hear well, and I was just trying to find out which line to go into. But in the meantime, it was mortifying, really.
I'm sorry that happened. That really is mortifying and embarrassing. I have to say nothing like that has ever happened to me. Anybody else?
Pat, hello from San Jose. This is Steve Kinsey, Lynn's husband. It's been a while since we've seen you.
Oh, Steve. Oh, my goodness. That is so, and
so
Lynn,
here-
it's so nice to see both of you.
Pat, here's my frustration. For 30 plus years, we get together with people that know of Lynn's hearing loss. And still, even though I keep repeating that they need to make accommodations, they don't. So for me, it's an unbelievable continuing frustration that they're ignoring her and they're not willing to try to make any compromise.
Why do you think that is, Larry? Why do you think that is?
Why do you think that is?
Hmm?
She asked you a question.
Why do I think? I wish I had that answer, Pat. If I had that answer, I wouldn't be asking the question. Because
I'll tell you, I ask. My partner is from Texas. He's got an accent. He mumbles and he talks softly. Wonderful, wonderful. You know how many times I've told them, I can't hear what you're saying? I don't know. I don't know the answer. You know what? Maybe we'll find an answer when I talk about their challenges. So I'll tell you what, unless anybody else they want to talk about, Larry, could we go to the next slide, please?
For some reason, there we go.
So does this sound like what I just talked about, what we both just talked about?
Yes.
You know, I got to tell you, when people don't look at me when they talk, I want to slap them.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm-
Yes.
I'm polite, but I want to go, "Choo, choo, choo." Come on, I want to hear what my friend Ruth says. Look in the whites of my eye. How about this? Well, I can't do it, but I'm talking softly. It is the most annoying thing. Or if I mumble, but you know, talking too loud is annoying too. And of course, being ignored is no fun. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. I see the fan going on with Rosamond. I guess it's pretty hot where you guys are. It is, okay.
You hear, oh, you see the fan. What's all this?
I can see the ceiling fan from Rosamond Gray.
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. What's this slide that's just come up? Oh, this is what the deaf or hard of hearing people feel when hearing people speaking. Is that, but all sort of chopped up. Is that right?
Absolutely. It is absolutely chopped up because it's making a point. This is what we hear.
Yeah, you're right.
This is exactly what we hear. Now, depending on the level of your hearing loss, depends how much or little you hear. I mean, when I first started to lose my hearing, I was better than this. And before I got my implant, I could hardly hear a word. But this is just a sample of what, and I actually think it's a really good slide to show people so they understand. And they're also, how do you call it? How do you call it when you can get videos that demonstrate what we hear depending on where your hearing loss is. And people with good hearing can listen to that and really get an idea of what it's like for us. Okie dokie, Larry, let's go to the next slide. Okay, and now we're leaving us and we're going to them. Next slide, please. We often bluff pretending to hear when we don't. What should our partners do when they know we're bluffing? So I've given a lot of workshops for couples. I told you about that. And I actually have partners crying over the fact that their partners bluff. It is so frustrating to them. They say, why don't they just ask me to talk again, ask me to talk louder or whatever? But they hate it when we bluff. And they don't really know what to do. They don't want to call us on it all the time, but they talk to us so we hear them, not so that and by the way, I'm an expert on this. When somebody smiles, guess what I do? And if somebody looks upset, it's funny, but it's really pathetic. And it's pathetic that I considered myself an expert. All right, let's go to the next slide. Can you read this? I'll read it to you in case you can't see it. The man says to the waitress, "Can I ask you something about the menu, please?" And she says, "The men I please are none of your damn business." Okay. Okay, and let's go to the next one. I think this is one of our favorite ones. We get insulted when somebody says, never mind. Say they tell a joke or something and we didn't hear it, they go, never mind. But let's think about what they go through. That exact moment in time is lost and recreating it is difficult. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying they shouldn't recreate it. I'm just saying it's not as easy or as simple as just repeating it. And I'm just trying to give what happens on for the others, for the other side, because we're all a group with hearing loss. I'm doing we and them, which isn't very nice, but I guess you get it. All right, let's go to the next one, please. Okay, another joke. So, Andre, the king wants to know how you're coming with Saint George and the dragon. And this is such an easy mistake to hear, Saint George and the wagon. Of course, it doesn't make any sense, but who knew? Okay, let's go to the next one, please. So we actually ask our partners to talk very specifically. Loud, but not too loud. Look at the whites of our eyes, talk clearly. Don't talk from another room. Don't mumble. Don't talk with food in your mouth. Don't talk with your hand against your mouth. Talk in a quiet environment. Use assistive listening devices. Well, you know what? If you think about it, we do ask a lot of our partners. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but I'm saying if you've talked one way your whole life, it's not necessarily easy to change how you've been talking. Does that make sense? All right, let's see what we've got next. How often do we tune out? Regine, do you have a question?
Well, yes, I tell my husband all the time. I mean, my hearing loss is getting worse. It's getting so bad that I can't even really. I used to use the pocket talker and it worked perfectly. Now I can't hear anything. But he always talks from the other. We married 64 years and he doesn't get it. And so I just wondered, what to do. I mean, I said, I can't hear you. He come in and he talks to me with his back to me. And he loves me. I know he's trying to do the right thing, but how do we react to that without, I don't want to get upset.
No, I'm not interested.
But it's so frustrating.
Are you still unmuted?
They can hear me now, but I can't see them. I don't know how to get seen. The speaker.
Does anybody have any advice for Regine? Because that's a challenge. I actually don't have advice, but I have sympathy and empathy because I go through the same thing. And you're right, I don't want to get mad. You know what I do? I get to the point when I can't hear him. I ignore him.
That's good.
Could he wear?
I don't mean I ignore him, but I just carry on as if I hadn't heard him.
We used to say to people, we used to show devices at the library and people would ask us questions all the time because we all lived through it during, every day. And we used to tell people, it's just not a normal thing for people to do. Everybody does that because they say, I've asked my family 1,000 times to look at my face and they just won't do it. But we used to say it's because it's not natural when you're in a group, like to look at one face and then look at another face and then, and so it's just not a normal thing for humans to do that we're asking them to do.
I mean, you hit it on the button. It's not natural to them. My partner is just about 80 years old. He's been talking with a Southern accent since his whole life. I think he's been mumbling his whole life. He's been talking softly his whole life.
I have a suggestion. Could your partner wear one of those little clip-on devices that plays into your hearing aid? I have a little clip-on device, and when I'm trying to hear one person or even a group, I can put it in the middle of a table at a restaurant, or I can ask one person to clip it onto their collar, and then I hear it very well in my hearing aid.
What do you think, Regine? Could you ask your husband?
I should know that because I have so many devices, and that's such a great idea. Also, another guy that isn't here today, but he used to tell me, wear a Roger pen around your neck, because I always talk too loud. And if I wear a Roger pen around my neck, then I'll know when I'm talking loud. And if I do the same thing with my husband, that's a great idea. I'm writing it down.
I think that's why HLA is so great. We all know the answer. I shouldn't say we all know the answer. We all potentially know the answer, but we forget. So thank you so much. Thank you, Phyllis. Okay, so now I'm going back to this slide, if that's okay. I know for myself, sometimes I just tune out. I'm too tired. I'm too tired of listening. I'm too tired of not hearing, and I just tune out. And I know that my partner doesn't like it, but I don't think he really knows what to do. He doesn't want to like shake me and say, come on, wake up, because I'm exhausted. But I think the point is, whatever they do, it makes them uncomfortable on some level. Does that make sense? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would like to add, my daughter married a man from England 5 years ago, and a wonderful, wonderful man. He had a very strong accent. It was really hard to be around him because I couldn't understand what he was saying half of the time. And if we were more than two people, which we often were, it was even less than half of the time. And so my daughter could see when I wasn't hearing correctly, and she'd say, did you hear what Pete said? That helped. But it was a very difficult time. Now, over the years, I've gotten that I can understand him better. Whether his accent is a little less or so, I'm not sure why. But that was a really tough situation because I wanted to be around him and her, and I was struggling constantly to understand what he was saying. And I avoided a lot of what I wanted to do because of that. And my daughter's being perceptive was helpful to me when she would say that. Did you hear what he said? Because I'd have this blank look on my face, I guess, And although it was a little embarrassing when she did that a good bit, it helped him to understand, I think, at what level I was trying to hear him, as well as him repeating things for me. But I really think he's lost some of his accent, and I think that's why I understand him now.
Sally, what do you think he could do to help you out?
Talk to me one-on-one in a quiet environment was the easiest thing. But, again, you're socializing with your daughter, her new husband, her daughter who lived with her still at that time, my granddaughter. You want to be with them all. You don't want to just isolate. But there were times There were times when I would do that, but not most of the time.
So your daughter sees when you tune out. She's aware of that. She can read your face.
Yeah.
And so she'll tell you what he's saying. She tries to bring you in
Yes.
the conversation.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was embarrassing to me to so often not understand what he was saying that, sometimes I would bluff, sometimes I would ask him to repeat, sometimes I just didn't stay very long, we live next door. I could easily escape. But that isn't what I wanted to do, obviously.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a difficult situation. I hate to say it, but there's really only one. There's only one thing you can do, and that is bring it out in the open. And it looks like it is out in the open. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I forgot to look in the chat. Is there any questions that I should answer from the chat? Are you all okay with that?
Somebody asked, said a Roger Penn. Pat, do you want to explain a Roger Penn to somebody asked? I didn't know who asked it, but
That was me. Is that what Roger Penn? Yeah, what is that?
So a Roger Penn is an assisted listening device. There are several, it's not brand specific, meaning it works with different hearing aids and cochlear implants. There are quite a few different models, but bottom line, all the models help you hear in those noisy environments. Are you thinking of getting one, or why are you, where is your interest from?
Well, I had never heard of this, I don't think, but if it's good for noisy environments are awful. So anything that could help with that would be amazing.
The Roger Penn, I think, is probably the best solution.
Okay.
If you're with a group of people, the Roger Penn really works, and they're different models, and I'm not real slick on the different models. Do you have problems one-on-one?
Less problems one-on-one. I basically have, for high frequency sounds, it's just completely gone. So.
And you wear hearing aids or cochlear implants?
I have hearing aids right now. I'm not the best about wearing them, but I would try it with a thing like this, I guess.
Why aren't you good at wearing them?
They don't seem to help as often as they make everything muddy. I feel like I still haven't gotten used to them. My sister has a cochlear implant and she said that it's better. I might be a candidate for that at some point, but not yet.
How long have you had these hearing aids?
Had the loss, I think, as long as I think I've always had it. I think it's genetic, but I didn't know until like 5 or 6 years ago.
Got it. And how long have you had the hearing aids?
5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would go back to your audiologist. They might need a tuning, they might need a cleaning, they might need, I don't know. I would go back to your audiologist, see what she says.
Okay.
I'd like to share one thing here. Before I got my first cochlear implant, which was 12 or so years ago, I had been wearing hearing aids for a long time. And I was at my audiologist and I said, I don't know why I am having so much trouble hearing, even with the best hearing aids that I have. And she said to me, do you know about power hearing aids? I said, what's that? She said, well, one of my customers just was here and gave me a pair because they were getting cochlear implants or whatever a while ago. She said, I want you to try these. It was like it made such a difference for me because I hadn't qualified yet for a cochlear implant. But I had never heard about power hearing aids. You know, sometimes we just don't get the information that we need that would help us to function better. And it made quite a difference for me. Do you know about power hearing aids, Pat?
I've never heard that term. I know there are different levels for different levels of hearing loss, and I assume it's hearing aids that are more powerful.
Yeah, I don't recall what the name of the company was, but I also heard about them at the National Convention of the Hearing Loss Association when they had a panel of experts about, you know, the different companies and different hearing aids. And I heard about them at that time. That was after I had gotten them. But I had been getting hearing aids for years and nobody told me. And this really made a difference, this particular set
That's
of
great.
hearing aids.
I think that's why I'm suggesting that Alex goes back to her audiologist.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can ask about all this. Thank you.
Um,
I wanted to mention also what I use my Roger pen for. When I go to a restaurant with another couple, I have three. They're expensive, but I tell my husband, we've got to spend money on letting me hear because that's probably the most important thing. But I have all three of them wear a Roger pen. So at a restaurant that's really loud, it goes right below their mouth, and I can hear them much better using the Roger pen. And then they have one that's a table mic, and it's around, and you put it. I have two. When I have 12 family members there, I put one on each end of the table, and it listens to the people around them, and I hear better with those. So maybe talk to your audiologist about Roger pens and find out more about them, because I think they're wonderful.
They're wonderful. And one just came out. You know, I just see we only have 15 minutes left. So I think, Larry, if you could please put up the next slide. So this is interesting. Our partners know we're challenged hearing, but they get annoyed over our mishearing and need to talk louder. But then they feel guilty. I got this straight from my friend Debbie. Her husband started to get a hearing loss, and she can't talk from another room now. She's got to talk clearly. He mishears a lot. She totally gets what's going on, and she's totally cognizant to be as good as she can. But sometimes she gets annoyed, and when she gets annoyed, she feels guilty. So I'm not saying this is really our problem, but what I am saying, it's something, it does happen to our partners, that they want to be good to us. They want us to hear, they want everything, but they do get annoyed. They get annoyed that they have to talk a certain way. They can't yell from another room. When you go to sleep at night, you can't turn the light out. You can't talk anymore in the dark. So I think they want to be good to us, but sometimes they get annoyed. They just get annoyed. I heard John Waldo's wife talk. Do you know John Waldo? He was a lawyer. He died. Yeah, he died, I guess, last year or the year before. And I heard his wife talk. And she said when they first went out on a date, she was so impressed because he looked at her so intently. Of course, he was just trying to understand what she was saying. But what she did say is, once a year, she goes out, she goes away for, I don't know what she said, a week or a few days with her hearing friends. And she said, I can't help it, but it's a relief. It's a relief not have to talk that way. What can I say? Okie dokie. Let's go to the next slide, Larry. We could play the TV too loud. What do they do? What do they do? What do our partners do? And you know, there's so many assistive listening devices for TV and captions and all that. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. We don't acknowledge our hearing loss. So our partners see us talking to someone and we don't acknowledge our hearing loss. We don't hear, they see that and they don't really know what to do. They don't like it. Should they tap us on the shoulder and say, you know, why don't you just tell them that you have a hearing loss? Or should they tell them, oh, she has a hearing loss? Well, if my partner said to those people that I misheard, she's got a hearing loss, I would be annoyed. If I want to tell somebody I have a hearing loss, I'll do it. I don't want somebody else speaking up for me. So question, would anybody, how do I say this? How would you feel if your partner went to whoever you're talking to and say, oh, you have to talk louder, she has a hearing loss, or you have to look at her, she's got a hearing loss. How would you feel if your partner advocated for you?
Makes me mad. I don't want, just like you said, I'm enough of an advocate now after all these years for myself that I usually tell people right up front. But
Carol,
if
this is
somebody,
what-
but if
this is-
my husband tried to tell that somebody else, I would be annoyed. That's just
Yeah.
me.
So, okay, so Sally is a great advocate. I think she understands what needs to be done. What
I-
about before you were a good advocate? What about before you were comfortable speaking up for yourself? I guess it's an impossible question, but how would you have felt if he had advocated for you when you didn't advocate for yourself?
Probably the same way because I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
What can I say? I have to
Well,
learn
my
things the hard way, I
experience,
guess.
I'm
My
not sure.
experience is if it helps, I don't care who says it.
Yeah, I don't feel
Okay.
that anyone has
That's
particularly.
great. Who said if it helps, you don't care?
It's Jim.
Thank you for saying that. You know,
And I
that
don't
is
think
such a
I would
mature,
either.
that is such a mature thing to say. I wish I had said that, but I'm not mature enough.
I agree with Jim. I think that's really true. You know, whatever helps us, we have to be
Yeah,
looking at what's helping us. And if it helps us a little bit, then it's worth it.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and I honestly wish I had said it. But I never would have thought of it. So thank you for saying that. All right. Larry, if you could go to the next slide. And you can put the second part. So I know that if I am talking to someone and we talk about where we're going to meet at what time. So if they say we're going to meet at the corner of 5th and 34th Street at 4 o'clock, I like to confirm it because it's so easy to misunderstand. But sometimes I get cocky and I go, oh, I've got 2 cochlear implants. I don't need to confirm anymore. I hear so well. I'm just suggesting always confirm information like that. Okie dokie, Larry, next slide, please.
I would like to have it written down.
Bump in here. I think it's a lot of times I have people write it down. I even was talking to a doctor and she gave me the information and she said, do you want me to email you? And I said, yes, because then I can make sure I've gotten it correct because, you know, I've got to read what they're saying.
Agreed.
I totally agreed. Totally agreed. By the way, and this is slightly off topic, when you go to a doctor, has a doctor ever provided you with a pocket talker?
What? A pocket what?
A pocket talker, I take it you're not familiar with a pocket talker,
Not familiar. Mm-mm.
Regine?
I use mine all the time, but unfortunately, my hearing loss has gone down, so I don't hear as well. But the hearing aids are so expensive. The pocket talker, the loop, and the mic are like $300 for all three of them. And so it's a really inexpensive, which you have to have a T-coil in your hearing aid. That's the problem. A lot of cardiologists don't believe in T-coils.
Wait a second, wait a minute, so first of all, I'm going to answer the question what a pocket talker is. A pocket talker is an assistive listening device. An assistive listening device is a device that helps you hear in difficult to hear situations. Those situations are distance, ambient noise, like if you're at a restaurant and you hear the dishes clattering and the chairs moving back and forth. And the third is, what is that called? Reverberation. So, oh, okay. Can you see the pocket talker? It's hard to see, Regina. It's hard to really see what it is. It's a device. It's a device that helps you hear. It's inexpensive. It's cheap. There are two ways of using a pocket talker. If you're mild to moderate, you just use headphones. If you're severe to profound, you need to go into T-coil and get a neck loop. Right, Regina, am I right about that?
Yes,
I'm right.
you see that I showed it. Can they see what it looks like? That's what it looks like.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hey,
Thanks.
Alan has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan.
So I'm not familiar with the other pocket talkers, but the 2.0, which can receive signal from a hearing loop, and with the headphones, you don't have to have hearing aids with telecoil on them or anything.
I'm sorry, I'm losing. Can you say
Okay.
that again? I didn't follow what you said.
So a pocket talker 2.0 is able to receive the telecoil signal.
Right,
And so if you don't have hearing aids with telecoil on them, you could just put the headsets on.
right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, I gotta tell you, assistive listening devices are so complicated. Just there's the one simple pocket talker. There are two separate ways of using it. And then you can use it without hearing aids at all.
I have to say, this is the first pocket talker, and there have been two others since then. But I tried at the convention with William Sound, and I tried both of them. And the old one is the one that I hear the best. I don't know if that's true with everybody, but I hear much better on the old one.
There was, in Maine, it's called a Deaf Festival Conference. And I talked to, I can't remember who I talked to, but they had the newer pocket talker. It's slim rather than rectangular. And I said, which is better? He said, it's specific to that person. It's an individual decision. He said some like the old and some like the new. You know, I gotta tell you.
That's why it was good that we had the library, because we had all the devices at the library for them. They couldn't buy them or rent them, but they could try them out. So it's true. Everything is different with everybody's hearing loss. So I wish we were still doing that, because that was so wonderful to have.
So does the state of California have a place where you can try an assistive listening devices?
Well, some of the audiologists in our area are much better than others with having devices to use, but I don't know that there's a specific place where you can go to get all of that. Although I can tell you that our Saturday Connections group has more savvy hearing aid people in it than any other place I've been except the convention. And they really, many of them are pretty much experts at the different devices. And that Saturday Connections is every, except in the summer, it's on the second Saturday from 11:30 to 1. And that is a place that I think you would find as good of information as just about anywhere, other than maybe an audiologist who is really up on the assistive listening devices.
Guys, help me out. The name Ann Thomas, is she in your area?
Who?
Ann Thomas.
Ann Thomas is, yes, she is. She's across the bay.
I think she has assistive listening devices.
She has cochlear implants now. I know that.
She has cochlear implants, but that has nothing to do with assistive listening
Yes,
devices.
I understand.
I think she has assistive. I would actually, it's not my business to tell you to contact her, but I think she would help you out. She is a real expert in assistive listening devices. Okay, we got to move on because we have 2 minutes and I'm going to be kicked out. So let's go to the next slide. So, you know, we all have to go through the 5 stages of grief. It's not just us. It's not just us who are angry and frustrated, and then acceptance, and then again getting angry and getting frustrated, but our partners do too, because they lose a lot that they had before. Like if you have a hearing loss, chances are you don't want to go out as much as you did before. Chances are you don't hear as much and you tune out. Chances are, well, we already know that we can't talk in bed when the lights are out. We can't do it. So we go through the 5 stages of grief, but they do as well because there are things that they lose. Okie dokie, Larry, please, the next one. So, you know, when I'm suggesting here is stuff that we all know already. Basic communication strategies, and that's another workshop I give on communication strategies. But the basic ones are ask them to talk louder, talk clearer, look in the whites of your eye, or talk in a quiet environment. You know, I love being in a large party and somebody talks to me and I grab to the corner of the room or outside. In the winter, it's not a good thing, but, you know, and I say, talk to me in this quiet environment. Okie dokie. I think we're about finished. Larry, I think if you could give me, so somebody told me this, and that is, what happens when your partner gets annoyed that you can't hear them in spite of them using all of those strategies? So my heart went out to him. He says his family just sometimes gets annoyed with him because even when they're doing the right thing, he mishears them. I know, exactly. That, Phyllis, what you just said is exactly. I actually didn't know what to say because who knows exactly what's going on. Maybe he's being a pain in the neck. Maybe they're really not talking loudy. Maybe he's exhausted. Maybe he just had a fight with his wife. I don't know. You know, there are all these possibilities. If you have if you have a fight with your wife, your husband, and then you can't hear, well, they're mad already. But I felt bad for the guy. I think that's it, but let's see what we got, Larry. Well, you know what, you know this, you know, it's communication, that there's nothing else. But, and Larry, you can just go to the end because we have taken up more than an hour. I think the bottom line is you got to be open. You got to work on it. And Regina and I, we're going to have to work harder and harder, and maybe we'll use that assistive listening device. That's a good idea. But whatever it is, you got to be open about it. can't be quiet about it. But I just want you all to know that it's not necessarily easy for them either. I think that's my whole point.